turn on this computer. Awesome. Okay, everyone. Okay, so you can tell from the title today that today I'm going to be discussing and sharing with you the 3 strategies that my students have used to get accepted into their dream colleges. And to give you some backstory, some students, they had really good GPA, really good SAT scores, but some students didn't, and that's the reality of it. And so I have students from all spectrum in terms of quantitative measures. And so I just wanted to clarify that before we go ahead and begin our lecture today, our workshop today. Lecture sounds too dry, right? Okay. Let's do a little quick check-in before we actually get started so that you know that you're in the right place this evening. So you're in the right place if you, as a mom or a dad or as a student, want to avoid pitfalls and want to know some practical strategies by the time you leave this workshop. You're also in the right place if you want some refreshing and not just any ideas, but proven ideas as to how to make your child's college application stand out, even if your son or daughter doesn't have the best GPA and SAT scores. And even if your child has awesome GPA and awesome SAT scores, you know for a fact that rejection letters still happen. Not everyone gets accepted. I mean, you know, Stanford, Harvard, 4%, 5% acceptance rate. So this workshop applies to everyone. You're also in the right place tonight if you as a parent want a better understanding of the college admission process, because let's face it, there's so much information out there, and it's actually really hard to apply what you hear or, you know, read in blog posts and in Facebook groups and things like that. And one of the things that I hear a lot of parents say is, yeah, I read this strategy or this, you know, method online, but I'm not really sure if it's trustworthy or not, because they don't know if it's been proven, right? And lastly, but most importantly, you're in the right place this evening if you want your child to be happy throughout this process and not get caught up in the comparison trap or the rat race. By this, I mean taking test after test, attending a bunch of summer programs, enrolling SAT and ACT programs. You know, you get the point here. And as a matter of fact, my, you know, seniors who got accepted into, you know, MIT, Harvard, and all those great colleges, most of them, I would say about 95% of them, didn't attend any prestigious or expensive summer programs. So you're actually going to take away a lot of refreshing strategies and ideas today, okay? And so, yes, you're here for that, but here are a couple of points that will hit the reality, right? Students and parents are bound to make mistakes along this process because they are, you know, you're not looking at this objectively, right? So you think, oh my gosh, like if I have this on my resume, this should be good enough, right? And so navigating through the college admission process, mistakes occur not because you don't have the right information, but because you can't look at this from, you know, you can't look at this in a holistic way. You can't look at the big picture, right? You're just focusing on one activity one activity at a time. And so, you know, and another reason is everyone sort of follows what's popular. Following, you know, your friend's advice or your son's friend's advice or senior friend's advice or strangers' advice on Facebook, things like that. So we tend to sort of follow what's popular and like, you know, and for example, selecting summer programs or selecting volunteering, right? Without really thinking, why am I doing this, you know? And, you know, the third one is moving through the application process and the college admission process with absolutely no clarity, but just simply trying to get as many things done as possible, right? So here's another mistake that happens. And I hear you. I completely understand the way that you're feeling right now, the way that you're processing, you know, this journey. And that's because you probably, or not probably, you want the best for your child, right? So you're trying to do as much as you can. You're trying to make sure that your child is not missing out on any opportunities. You also want to provide whatever you can, even if that means stretching your wallet a little bit, whatever it is, you want to provide the best resources. The next one is, you only have one shot at this. You don't apply to colleges over and over and over again. So for instance, if I'm trying to lose weight and trying to work out, you have many chances to do so. But going into college, that's not the case. And so because there's only one shot at this, you want to make sure that your entire family gives, the best, you guys just basically provide the best resources and opportunities for your child. And so here's the thing. A lot of parents are feeling this pressure and anxiety because getting accepted into top colleges and just colleges in general is becoming more and more competitive. The acceptance rate drops every admission cycle, and that's the trend that we're seeing right now, right? And so it's just, the reason for that is because more students are applying every year. This is a Business Insider article that was published last year about how getting perfect scores on SAT, having top 5% in terms of GPA aren't good enough anymore. What's happening, right? A month ago, University of Southern California released that they were only able to accept 13% of its applicants this year, simply because so many top applicants applied, right? And take a look at the acceptance rate for for the year of 2014. It was nearly 18%, and then this year, 2018, it's 13%. That's like USC is heading towards sort of like the Ivy League or even tier 2 school acceptance rates, right? So, it's only going to go down from now on. So to combat this competition, we see a lot of parents and students looking for professional guidance. And just last year in the United States, $400 million was spent on private college consultants. But unfortunately, students are still getting rejected from their dream colleges, even with the help of college admission consultants and professionals, and even with the best GPA and SAT scores. So, this is a question we all wonder about. What's going on? Where's the disconnect? Who is getting accepted? And for those students who are getting accepted, what do they do differently? What made them get accepted and not others, even with the same GPA, SAT scores, and similar extracurricular activities? So I'm going to tell you what is happening, everyone. So most college counselors will give very similar advice to their students. They'll say, get straight A's and take a lot of AP classes. I'm sure you heard this before, right? Volunteer at a local community center or senior center. Attend summer camps and programs, and during summer, keep yourself really busy because it's competitive. Get perfect scores on SAT and ACT scores, AP exams, SAT 2 exams, and then also they'll say like run for president of your club, or just create your own club without really identifying whether this child truly wants to, be a leader or not, because not everyone has to be a leader, right? And so we see a lot of these advices taking place, and these advices are just similar. They say this to everyone, right? So I'm here to tell you that these general advices are no longer right, and they're not going to get you the results that you're looking for. The reason for that is because each and every student is very different. And so when the admission committees are reviewing your child's application, they will want to see something different and unique about your child. Not unique because your child tried to, stand out and be better than everyone else, but just truly unique, right? We're all born with talent, with our own unique sense of personality and our goals and things like that, right? And so what they want to see is patterns, and they want to see long-term commitment that is not just for the sake of filling up volunteering hours, but because it is something that was driven by your child. So here's what is missing. And they're beneath what we can actually see. So I'm using this glacier image to give you a better idea, to emphasize that a lot of the suggestions and the counselors that we give are surface level instead of digging deep. So really, truly diving into your major exploration, right? Creating a passion project because you want to. All of my students right now, they're working on their own unique passion project, and they're so different from each other, right? One of my students, she's actually creating a huge amount of followers on Instagram so that she can start an online clothing store. One of my students is, creating reading literacy centers so that he can utilize curriculum from different universities to, measure their literacy level as a bilingual, things like that, right? So passion projects happen because your child wants to do it. Another thing, identifying strong skill sets, whether that is personally or academically or professionally. And lastly, mastering time management skills and stress management skills, because during this process, one of the things that I emphasize is that you shouldn't be stressed out to a point where you feel like you hate yourself or you feel like you're not good enough. This is a natural process of growing up, and you want this to be fun. You want this to be enjoyable. You want this journey to be as authentic as possible, because that's life, right? So, would you agree that out of all of the things that I've mentioned underneath the glacier, at least one of them is something that your child needs to work on, right? And speaking of passion, Angela Duckworth talks about when she was growing up, it was more about facing the practical realities and surviving in the real world rather than the message of follow your passion, follow your dreams. And the point that she makes about our current and future generation is this: most young people don't need encouragement to follow their passion, because most students would do it in a heartbeat if they knew they had a passion in the first place. And so how do we enable our children to move through this process with passion? And I'm going to talk about that in today's workshop. And so for this workshop, my goal is really simple. It's to guide you through a proven system to get your child accepted into their dream colleges. It's simple as that. And so you might be wondering, okay, Julie, how do you know all this? I've consulted over 500 students and now almost going into 600 over the past 3 years, now going on to my fourth. And 90% of my students got accepted into their dream colleges. And by that, I mean Ivy Leagues and the top, tier 1 colleges. And as for top 100 colleges, 100% success rate. And here's the thing. It's not just that I helped out my students, but I myself got accepted into my dream colleges like UCLA, USC, and graduate school Harvard University, even without the best GPA and SAT scores and GRE scores. So anything quantitative, I wasn't really strong at that, but I knew how to tackle this process. So don't worry, you're in good hands tonight. I didn't just pull these slides together without any expertise or experience. It's been proven with my 500 students and more. And so I will be sharing all the case studies with you today, okay? And so just for those people who came in later and you didn't see my face, this is me. I just want to give you like a 2-second introduction. My name is Julie Kim, and I guide and mentor middle and high school students get accepted into their dream colleges. And not just that, but helping them find their value in life, academic interests, strong skill sets, and much more, okay? And the biggest reason why I do the work that I do now and get the results for my students is this: I've been through it. I got accepted into UCLA, one of the most competitive colleges in California, and I actually applied with a very competitive major. And I got in, and while I was there, I wasn't happy. And the reason for that was because I didn't check my values. I didn't understand what my value and passion was. I didn't understand my strong skill sets. I didn't know what my interests were. So basically, just like so many other high school students that I see these days, I was navigating through this process because with the mindset of, okay, I'm going to get into the best college possible. So I didn't really dig deep. And beautiful campus, and that's my brother. That's my brother and I, and we went there when I got accepted for the admit day, and I was so happy. But unfortunately, and eventually, I ended up leaving UCLA. So I've been through the process myself. And this is me at Harvard University. And you could tell that, well, you can't tell from the picture, but while I was there, I was so much more motivated and happy and purposeful because I identified my values. I identified my passion. I found what was my true calling. And because of that, I was able to maximize my potential at Harvard and just achieve a fantastic results, right? And so that's just my introduction. And I say this because it's all going to lead into the strategies that I'm going to talk about today. All right, so let's begin. So here's action step 1, and that is to identify your child's value. So if you printed out the value action worksheet, please take that out now. And so try to fill that out as much as possible. So the first action step here is so important because without this, the other ones aren't going to work. Okay. All right. So here are some questions to get your child started, your son or daughter started. And this is just 1% of what we cover. But okay, I'm just going to give you some of the questions. So what do you love? These speak to your child's passion. What are you good at? These speak to your child's possible profession. What does the world need more of? These speak to your child's mission in life. And what can you get paid for? These speak to your child's vocation. These are just some starter questions that I use with my current students. And of course, definitely, I dive in more. But these are some questions that will definitely give your child an opportunity to just sit down and think and ask, yeah, what do I want to do in the future? Why do I want to major in finance or computer science or biology or business? And trust me, when I ask these questions in the beginning of my relationship with my students, their responses are sort of like, because I watched a TED Talk, or because my friends, my older friend is studying at UPenn and he's majoring in business. Yeah, those are really great ways to get started and be motivated. But are you doing anything about it? Are you going outside into the real world and exploring that? Or are you just thinking in your head, yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do, just because you were introduced to that by accident, right? So for those of you who got my email this week, I wrote about how Julia Child found her passion. And for her, it wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to, start a cookbook because that's what everyone needs, right? In America, right? It was very much, she was triggered, but she did so many things to follow up with her interest and her passion. And if you take a look at these 4 questions, this is what Julia Child encompassed. This is what she implemented in her life, right? And that's just an example. These questions seem really simple right now, but these are really powerful. And these are the questions that colleges will eventually ask you, right? Whether it is through an interview, whether it is through the essay, right? So why not start thinking about it so that you can take more action, right? And so how do you find your value? It comes from taking action. So here are 3 ways to do so. You need to give your child the right opportunities and the right experiences instead of just talking about it, right? Maybe it'll start off with, let's say you're interested in becoming a doctor, which is a very broad concept. Maybe you can start shadowing someone, right? But it shouldn't end there. So many students, they come into my program saying, oh, I shadowed a lot of doctors, but that's not enough. right? So starting it off with one opportunity and then using that opportunity to look into different opportunities, right? So it goes on and on and on. Stepping outside of your comfort zone little by little. It's not like, student comes into my program and they'll say like, okay, I'm going to transform you within like 2 weeks. It's, of course, if you're not the type to speak in front of people, it's going to be hard. But I'm not going to say, okay, because it's hard, let's give up. But we're going to take very, very step-by-step action so that your child is, getting rid of the mental blocks that's sort of blocking him or her from reaching their fullest potential, right? So stepping outside of a comfort zone. Number 3, creating networks with professionals to see what's beyond your imagination. So one of the things that I do for my students is if they're really interested in such topics, one of my students is really interested in mental disorders, depression, anxiety, things like that. And so, what I would have her do is take certification courses in that field. And what ended up happening was she became so embedded in that field and that curriculum that she ended up reaching out to the professor who was teaching that course. And then they built a relationship together, right? And they shared research papers together. The professor gave even more resources. And so, it really comes from taking action. You can't just sit around in your room, and hoping that your values will be formed one day, that you will find your passions one day. It doesn't work that way. And so why is value so important? And let me ask you this question. Why are we only talking about college? What about after college? Is college the end of your child's destination? No, it's just a stepping stone. Right? And so that's why value is important. And I experienced this firsthand. I went into the best college possible with my grades and within California, not knowing this. And it's gonna come back. You might be thinking, why am I? And maybe not soon enough, but even when you get your job or your child gets a job, even when you're taking classes at USC or UCLA, whatever, thinking, why am I learning this? Why am I in this job? And so many parents, I hear them say, you know what, finding passion, finding values, that's so hard. Really? What have you done so far to help your child get to that point of, wow, mom, that was really interesting. I want to do more. Right? And so, yes, college is our short-term goal. However, when we are navigating through this process, it's not just about taking the right classes and things like that. Of course, that's important, but it's thinking about the entire picture here. Okay? And that's why value is important. And that's what gets students accepted. Colleges want to see this authentic immersion. And, just to add on to that, what's the point of getting into the best college possible? What's the point of sending them to SAT prep and all that, tutor, blah, 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 if your child is not having fun, not motivated, not fulfilled, not interested, not fascinated, not challenged for the good reasons? What's the point? So here's another reason to back up the strategy that I'm sharing with you. This is a preference sheet that colleges release every year. And I believe this is UPenn's. It's one of the Ivy Leagues. And this is how they accept students or reject students. Okay? So if you take a look, obviously GPA, SAT scores, application essay are really important. And recommendation letters are super duper important. I sent that email out 2 weeks ago if you didn't get it. Now, in the very important column, what do you see? Sorry. Character, personal qualities. Why do we never talk about this? Why is it always about take a lot of AP classes, do this, do that, be the president, whatever? All these surface level strategies. But why are we never talking about building our children's character, building their personal qualities through opportunities? This is the value aspect of the application. And this is the tipping point of whether a student gets in or not, even with the same GPA and SAT scores. So this is my point. If you want to find value, if you want to strengthen your value, if you want to be a better citizen, better student, better leader, better contributor, whatever it is, you need to take action. And vice versa. By taking action, that's how you identify your values. Do you see how they go in hand, right? So I know a lot of these things could be a little conceptual. So I'm going to give you an example of one of my past students, Cindy. So she was a sophomore when she started, and she participated in a lot of clubs because she was eager to take on everything, just like everyone else that I see. You know, she took a lot of AP classes. She had like 3 science courses, honor courses, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I said, why so many AP classes, Cindy? Like, is this necessary? Because obviously, you know, her health was not great. Her mental, you know, capacity was not there. It was a mess. And she said someone told her, or she read it in a blog or something, that taking more than 10 AP classes will guarantee her into a great college. On paper, everything looked great. So I was like, okay, let's start with your value propositioning and identifying, you know, what's unique about you and things like that. And I asked her my value questions and the exercises, and I was so surprised to hear her say, I'm not interested in anything. And she doesn't feel excited about the activities that she's doing. She's just doing it because she has to. Maybe peer pressure, parental expectations, one of those. After working through identifying her value through many experiences and opportunities, which some she loved and some she didn't, we were able to identify what her value was. And using that as the core, I gave her different activities that she can try, passion projects that she can try, and that value guided us through her essay as well. And she got accepted into Cornell University to pursue her passion in international relations because she was really interested in global issues as well as law and business. And she didn't just come up with this passion out of the blue. It came from experiences and the action steps that we took for the 2 years together. Or actually, it's more of like 1.5. And at this point, you might think, well, Julie, this sounds really great, but I don't think what you're saying is going to work for my child. And here's the number one reason. My daughter doesn't even talk to me about her personal life anymore. The truth is, it's hard for high school students to open up to their parents, and that's just the way it is. I'm not saying that this is true for everyone, but most of my students that I work with, they didn't have the best communication system with their parents, especially when they're talking about high school, college, values, passion, interests, and things like that. And that's normal. And so, that's where a mentor comes in. We open up about school life, career options, opportunities, values, failures, whatever, right? Colleges. And students tend to open up to someone who is more of a mentor figure than to parents could easily place judgment. And I'm not saying that this is true for everyone because I have a great relationship with my parents. But, this is a trend that I've been seeing. And another reason is, how can we find this value? My kid is, whatever the reason is, right? And the truth is that it's hard for high school students to say, okay, mom, you know what I really value in life, right? And even for us adults, it's hard. And so that's why, as I mentioned, we need to give them the right opportunities based on, their preferences and what they want to try, right? And in the midst of that, we do need to make sure that we're challenging your child and making them take risks, little by little, right? Not too much. So I would like to share another story that resonates with this action step. And so this is a very similar case. Jason was focused on GPA, SAT, and things like that. And he was attending summer programs that were recommended by Facebook groups and whatever. And he was telling me that it felt like a rat race, and he was just doing it because he was just doing it. So very similar to Cindy's story. And you'll be surprised how many students come into my program this way. And so after navigating through all of his, resume and eliminating what needed to be eliminated, he only took courses that aligned with what he believed was important. And he remained very, very adamant to that. So, I respected his decision, and we only applied to programs and internships that fit with what Jason wanted to do. And during this time, he wasn't stressed out. He was having fun. He enjoyed it. It moved him. It motivated him more. So that's sort of the transformation that we can see as soon as we identify the value. So now the next action step is to now make decisions, right? So how do I make decisions once we identify the value? So let me share a couple of examples with you. And so here's a value that I identified with one of my students. So she said, I value debates and challenging discussions. She loves when people engage with her, talk about controversial issues and things like that. So she's a natural, debater, right? And more on the verbal side. And so action step, join MUN and participate in national speech and debate tournament and intern at a law firm, right? Value, I believe in the power of education. Volunteer at Joint Education Project and create math tutoring centers to teach multiplication tables to fifth graders. And the math tutoring center is something that we would call passion project and something that we work on together, because students don't follow up when you give them a huge task. So we break it down into little chunks, and within 6 to 7 months, we launch whatever the program that we decide to launch. Next one, I like to envision that I can create something new. So very innovative, very creative. Action, learn how to code and create an app that solves a problem. So here are a couple of, we're very much into coding and computer science, things like that. And, I had students tracking CO2 carbon footprint, creating a vocabulary app for literacy development, and creating Instagram projects so she can sell clothes online, things like that, right? And so that's something that they did. So you see that it's not just about identifying what's important in your life and what makes you come alive, but it's taking the right action steps, right? And I use this chart to give you an idea that when we do select any activities, any classes, any opportunities, we first make sure that they align with your child's values. And if they don't, we don't do it. And that's because if that's the case, you're just doing it because you want it to look good on the application. You're just doing it because everyone else is doing it. And I see a lot of parents make this mistake. So I want to share with you one of the stories that truly shows why making the right decision is important. When I met Kevin as a junior, he came into my program with a couple of Bs. And Kevin and his parents were anxious that those Bs were going to ruin his dream, his chances of getting accepted into his dream colleges. And one of the aspects of Kevin that was interesting was that he already worked with a college consultant before, and they quit with the counselor because Kevin said that he felt very, very pressured and always feeling like he was being demanded what to do. So basically, he had no confidence to move forward. And I have another story. I have another student right now, a current student, who actually went through a very similar situation where his mom said, we didn't really want to hire anyone anymore because his confidence went down so much, because they'll tell him, it's not going to work out. You need to do more. Not good enough, right? So very much on a deficit method. And so one of the things I let Kevin know was that, number one, I'm not going to demand you what to do because that's not why I'm doing this job. And so my job is to navigate him towards identifying his values, his academic interests, and making sure that he finds his passion, and that comes through his college application and the essays, right? And the reason why I promised him this was because I knew Kevin had passion. He loved talking about coding, startups, entrepreneurship, and so much more. So ultimately, we combined all of that together with all of his experiences, and we created a fantastic college application and essay combining his interest in coding and business and entrepreneurship. Kevin got accepted into UPenn. Okay, here are a couple of comments that parents will say. So they'll say, this really sounds great, but we don't have time. So here's my question. But aren't you attending my workshop so that you can make more time for your child, right? Isn't this about freeing up your child's time so that he's doing what is truly important? And don't you want to find that special sauce that your child only has? It's not about doing a lot of activities and, jumping from here and there and, building up his resume. It's about finding that sweet spot. And once we find that, we have more time because we're only working on what's important. And the second one, we're just not sure if this is the right way to approach college admission process. I showed you the chart in the very beginning, well, not very beginning, but a couple slides back. That's what college admissions are looking for. They want to see value-oriented students. So yes, this is the right way to approach college admission process, but a lot of people are not talking about this. And this is I love this case story actually. So Victoria's case story is this. She was volunteering at a senior center. She attended a biochemistry research program at UPenn, and she was helping out her uncle at a CPA office, and she was in 5 clubs. And after all the work that we did, we found out what truly made her come alive, and that was education. So what we did was it started off with her volunteering as a reading tutor because she said she loved kids and she loved literature. And after we found that out, she went there, she volunteered, and it was actually through a program called Reading Partners. And so she was doing that, and through that, she was just telling me profound findings, right, about how much students were missing out on individualized literacy instruction. And so she took certified classes in child development and literacy skills. And she also took a really fun class. I didn't put in here, but she also took a very fun class called Children's Literature, right? And so she really became an expert in this field, even more than, I would say, a teacher who is preparing for their ed school, right? And then she created so because of all this expertise that she had built, she created a club that connected tutors to students with little access to one-on-one math instruction. And you might be asking, I thought she was doing literature and literacy. Why is she doing one-on-one math instruction? And the reason for that was because we saw a relationship in their test reports that students who lack literacy skill also lack they're not performing as well in math classes as well. So she saw a correlation between these two factors. And so she implemented both literacy instruction and math together, because now with Common Core state standards and new curriculum, students need to know how to write and read even in math classes. So that's a very, for a high school student to develop this kind of specific project, it's just amazing, because that's what I worked on when I was in grad school, right? Or something along those lines. And so, this is, and when you see the after box here, do you see her value? I just listed 3 points. I didn't even tell you her entire resume, but can you identify what drove her? Do you see a storyline? I bet you do. All right, so we are almost done. We're gonna look at the next action step, which is to stand out with true authenticity. And so many parents and students think that to stand out, they need to join something or do something or talk to a professor. But what you don't realize is that college wants to see students who remain true to themselves. And it's better for your child, because Why would you want your child to be someone they're not? Right? Just for the college application process? No. And there is a strategy to highlight what they're good at and what they're not in their application and their essays. So how do you stand out by being more you? Spend time deepening knowledge and expanding perspective in one area. And here's the catch. You need to do it because you want to. You need to do it because you want to make changes in your community. You want to do it because you want to contribute to the research society. You want to do it because you want to be a better student, better person. Number two, please don't follow someone else's footsteps. I know I share case studies here, but it's not for you to just copy, right? It's not for you to just say, okay, well, if I just follow, Julie's past students and they got accepted into UPenn, that might be the way to go. No, it does not work like that. Number three, start your passion project. And that's something that I've been talking about. And that's something that I offer, that I've created myself, because I've seen yield such great results, not only for acceptance rates, but for the child's well-being. And so start it because you want to start it. Don't do it if you are just doing it because I'm telling you that it is great. And you always need to think about the end result. By creating this passion project, what is my ultimate goal? What is the end result that I'm looking for? And it better not be to get accepted into UPenn or Harvard. That's not a passion project. And I'm going to keep this really short because, because we do need to cut, we're already 45 minutes in. So to talk about Sarah, she got accepted into U Chicago. And for her, she came into my program as a junior. So right when she was going to finish her second semester of junior year. And so for Sarah, she was interested in different majors, so multiple majors. And this is very, very common. No one comes into my program saying, okay, I want to do this, right? They usually have multiple interests. And so we have to narrow them down by doing research. And so the issue with Sarah was that she didn't know which activities to eliminate or add so that her college essay would make sense and would truly represent and portray who she really is. Basically, she needed to create a story that made sense from the college admission committee's perspective. And the second issue with Sarah was that she didn't know which major would be a good fit for her. And again, this is very, very common. And so what we did was, number one, we laid out all of her current activities, her resume, her transcript, her grade reports, and then we started to, clean everything out. So eliminate the ones that weren't really serving her or were just there because of feeling like she had to put it in there. And then we started to create a strategy for her essay so that it conveys not only her activities, but her values in life and what drove her to this point. And then the third thing that we did was we added 1 to 2 key activities that would transform her essay into an authentic story. So what I mean by the last 1 or 2 key activities is we do something that other people don't, and we make sure that that activity is something that aligns with what she wants to do, if that makes sense. And so that's what we did. Sorry, I try to make this short, but the story is a story, right? Okay, so here's the thing. You see a sample resume here, and the student has 7 AP classes, perfect score on SAT, president of student body government, pre-med summer camp, attended pre-med summer camp, also took classes titled Intro to Coding HTML, and has 300 hours of volunteering with presidential awards. I want you to sort of step outside of your parental role and think from a college admissions perspective. Do you think an admission committee will be impressed by this? If these activities are only driven by what looks good on the application, right? These aren't going to mean anything. And these are the students who get rejected. Instead, They want to accept students who can thrive in on their campus and can answer these questions with passion. And like I said, it doesn't just come in one day, right? So they'll ask questions like this, and these are the questions that are on the college application essays. These are the questions in the interview. So here you go. Why did you decide to participate in this activity? Why did you create this nonprofit? What subjects do you want to study and why? How did you make a direct impact in your community? What do you value in life? What do you value in education? Sorry, it just went a little too fast, right? So if I were to ask this question to your child right now, how would they answer? And do their responses align with their current activities? Think about that. And that's the reason why I gave you the value action worksheet. That's something that I use with my students, so that you can test it out, right? So let's wrap everything up. First, identify your values. Second, make decisions that align with your values. And third, stand out by being you. And this is the key to getting that acceptance letter. And this is the key to your child's happiness. I'm sure and certain that you've attended this workshop because you as a parent want the best for your child. You want your child to be happy and successful. This is the way. And what I've covered today, this training, is something that is, it's like 1% of what I actually do with my students, but I still want you to take away this core belief and this core system, because it's been proven with me, my applications, and my students. So what's next is for your child to apply these strategies, right? And so for you to do that, I am offering a 45-minute strategy session. So during that session, we'll be evaluating your child's current portfolio. So basically what you've been doing in the value action worksheet, you're sort of getting a check by me, right? Because you're not really sure if your responses are right, if you're not really sure if what you're doing is the right way to do it, things like that. And so we're going to be going over academics, test prep timelines, school activities, volunteering, summer planning, and most importantly, gaining clarity, right? And so I'm offering this session because I want to spread the idea that it's not about surface level strategies anymore. I don't know if it was back in the days, but it's not. And so who is this for? This 45-minute session, it's not really for everyone. So I'm going to make it clear what kind of students I attract. So first, aspiring students who want to get accepted into their dream colleges, not just dream colleges, but identify their true potential, strong skill sets, academic interests, and values in life. This is also for motivated students who want to take their resume and college application to the next level. College essay is not about editing 1 to 2 times, 3 to 4 times by someone and then calling it, okay, we're done. It requires your soul, it requires so much more, genuine feeling. It's feelings. We are moved by emotions, and likewise college admission officers, but at the same time, you don't want to be too emotional, Okay, so next, it's for creative students who want to create their own passion projects, but they don't know where to begin, right? They have an idea here and there, but it never gets implemented. It never gets to the end product or the end result, right? And so those are the students that I am attracting. And if you feel like your child belongs in this category or wants this kind of transformation, you can go ahead and register for the strategy session. And I just want to show you a couple of the results that that my students were able to experience. And this is Aria's mom, and she says, my daughter started working with Julie because we really liked her approach. Her college consulting approach is different. She identified my daughter's passion and major so that she'll have more fun navigating through her high school years. The thing about Julie is that she goes beyond your expectations of a college counselor. She ensured that I remain positive and realistic at the same time. Despite joining the program so late into the application season and having absolutely no plans for summer, Julie turned my weaknesses into strengths. And if you're in my Facebook group, you know that I offer strategies and how the perspective that I take on. And this is the free training that I did on Facebook group about how to exemplify and demonstrate your vulnerability in college essays. And you see how so many people are benefiting from not just surface level strategies, but really digging deep, right? And I also, it's not just like, okay, let's find your value and all that stuff. We also talk about SAT, ACT, and everything like that. And, I also give guidance in that area. So one of my students said, I got my SAT score this morning, and I want to let you know I got a 778 on the essay. Thank you for all your help. I'm super happy with my score. So, my approach is not just like values and dreams and passion, but, we also tackle the practical side of things, right? And this is another student of mine. And, one of the things that I'm just going to highlight the core areas. And she says this, whether it is writing college essays or getting support for college interviews, I knew I was in safe hands. Her daily messages about essay revision and deadlines and checkups showed me that she truly cared about my future, right? And Jisoo is my Korean name, and she called me by that. So Counselor Jisoo, always inclined to assist with anything, even when I was in lack of confidence and motivation, right? And this is a email that I received very recently, and so this is mom is her daughter started working with me 2 months ago, and this is the email that I received last week. She says, my daughter is also very passionate and extremely kind. You are really supporting her, bringing the best out of her, and we truly appreciate that. This is not something any other counselors can do, and this is the kind of mentoring I was looking for my daughter. And this is just within 2 months, right? And so if you want to see these changes, if you want to apply my strategies, and if you feel like what I have to offer is what your child needs, you can go ahead and book that 45-minute strategy session. I do not have a lot of spaces, to be honest with you. So it's just going to be first come, first serve. And you can register by going to juliekimconsulting.com/dream-college. So it's Dream College, but there's a dash in between. And you could go to that link and register. You have to select a date and a time. And as I mentioned, unfortunately, I don't have too many spaces available. All right, so that's pretty much it. More than booking the strategy session and things like that, and of course, I would love to talk to you guys, but I hope that this workshop shifted your perspective. And if I can do that as an educator, that's great for me, right? This is a message that I want to spread so that your child is not, stressed out and miserable navigating through this process. So, all right, so we're done with the workshop, and you'll see a Q&A box on the screen. If you have any questions, you can ask me by typing in your questions in that Q&A box, okay? And I'll be able to answer your individualized questions if you have any. So I'll be waiting for that. But if you don't have any questions and you would like to, I don't know if you're in the East Coast, go to bed, eat dinner, whatever, you can go ahead and do so. So for those of you who are leaving, I want to thank you all for attending this, and I really hope that you took away a lot from this workshop and that you realize it's different from any other ones that you've listened in, right? So, all right, so that's it. So I'll be waiting for a Q&A. So I'm gonna start my video so that you can see me. For those of you who came in late, probably you don't even know how I look like, right? Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing actually. Stop recording.